Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continued playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice. Okay, we are crushing the Reich. It is going down, not necessarily this episode, and yes, they just cut off that. But we will be regaining connectivity very soon. Advanced education investment. Well, great. So we have our universities up and going. Logistical warfare, supply transfer. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, well, this is a different one. I almost don't want to look. No order. Well, we need today. You come down to here. You're the one that's going to occupy there. How are we doing out here in the Philippines? Well, they may develop a large enough garrison stack there to keep me from taking it, and I don't know how many forces I'll transfer over once Germany goes down. Well, let's see if we can attack there successfully. Yeah, looks like it may be. Okay. You don't need to go there, you need to attack there. Yeah, just my impatience for these units here to get moving. Oh, we're at Brandenburg. You guys can move in there. Now we can go to the offensive. Well, okay, good. Now we've got this. Can we start? Because I've noticed Germany's still holding out in Leningrad, which gives them victory points of 20. And so I increase you. Well, we can't go in there yet. Thought maybe once we had the Kiel Canal here. Okay, well. Convoy, wait, I guess we spotted any convoys out here. Let's sink them. No, I didn't. I want to put there. There we go. This pocket just about ready to reconnect. And they're attacking. Wow, look at all those forces. Very good. This damn thing. Okay. Iraq. I don't want to reestablish democracy in Iraq. What? Where are their Iraqi forces? War goal. I don't want to do either one of those things. I want to own Iraq. I'm a great colonizer. We need to colonize these countries. Not free them. What a great Imperial Britain. We're going to bring enlightenment to the world. Okay, you attack. I know you're a dummy unit. I still want how many days? 33 hours. Bulgaria? Bulgaria? I don't want to Bulgaria be independent. We're not going to colonize it, but we want its resources for now to defeat Nazism. All these panzer units out here. They could sure use those to defend up here. Now I'm sure Berlin, as you can see here, my aerial reconnaissance, has a mega amount. Now it's like 25 HQs of some sort, 12 infantry, 18 reconnaissance, 26 artillery, though you can see much of those are purely hollow units. And it is going to take a bunch of these guys here to smash their way into Berlin. Yeah, everybody, including whoever this is attacking outside Berlin. Establish war goal. Who? Romania? No. Romania will become a monarchy again, independent, once we've smashed the Nazis. Okay, good. We've got another. Keep moving forward. Yep, you're running rampant across Greece here, I know. It sort of sucks, but what am I going to do about it? Man, that's awfully shifted east. It's mostly Hungary, Serbia, and we had all those Serbian units in Croatia. It's doing that. The center of Germany is Poland. Warsaw, where's Warsaw in here somewhere? Warsaw, there we are. Yeah, so that's right at the center. The general government is the main heart of the Reich now. There. Well, we should go take up there. No. We're going to establish monarchy for Romania, not democracy, you fools. We're Churchill, we believe in monarchy. Oh, sure. You're going to have a nice, parliament, and the parliament's going to have a lot of power. We're not, completely silly. It's just... in countries like Italian Social Republic. No. This is interesting. And you're free to comment. You're free to have all your own political views. Trust me, I love the U.S. Constitution and it's worked great. So I'm not advocating some sort of change for there. But I also realize that the U.S. Constitution isn't going to work everywhere. Erdogan said, what is... democracy is a bus or something like that, and you get off of it once you get to your right station, or some sort of thing like that. Is that he was going to use democratic powers to install I think a modern caliphate, quite honestly, but it's definitely going to be much more of an Islamic state than Ataturk would have accepted. And so you have this idea in much of the world that I think they truly believe that if they can show democratic processes to achieve a certain political outcome, and they maybe say, oh, it's on righteous government of Allah or whatever, I don't know, Sharia law, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on that, but they, they get to whatever state that is, and hey, the majority wants this, so now we have a majority approval, so we can get this off, and then they shut down the abilities to change it, and they make other suppressions. So not every culture is wanting to accept it, and the only reason I think Turkey stayed as Western oriented as long as it did is simply because of the military control there, that the military would periodically take over if the political parties started to go astray. So it was Ataturk did a military coup against the Sultanate and changed the government to a secular government, and the Turkish army, until this last coup that failed, had been a protector of not necessarily of democracy, but of a secular state in Turkey, and I think that's now gone. And I think that it's still part of NATO, I think is BS. I would not be giving any new technical equipment to Turkey, and they go, oh, well, we need to bribe them to be our allies, blah 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 blah, that otherwise they will fall in the hands of the Soviets, or not, sorry, Soviets, the Russians or somebody else. That's fine. They're not going to become part of if the EU survives, they're not going to become part of it. They're not going to be part of the Western world. They're going Eastern. Turkey's going Eastern. I don't think that's going to change anything. And they're, like I say, a written constitution of any sort, I don't think is going to stop that. And I don't know all countries got a government setup, but I don't think most governments have a court system like the U.S. does that can say, as long as it can point to something in the Constitution and go, oh, your other two branches, legislature and executive, you're wrong, stop doing something. They can't really force them to do something, but they can stop them from doing something. So, just go, yep, you're wrong, stop it. Now, of course, the executive and the legislature can go through and change the Constitution to say, oh, I don't know, all left-handed people will be imprisoned. And you go through that process, and it's a long process, it takes several years, but you go through the process, and since there's a majority, very heavy majority right-handed people in America, they go, all left-handed people will be imprisoned. It goes through the process. The Supreme Court go, yep, that's the law. It's wrong, but it's the law. So we got to imprison all left-handed people. It isn't like some people believe that some sort of, I don't know, some sort of protector of if you will, arbitrary rights of some sort that, no, they have to be based on the U.S. Constitution. And it's something that's respected within our country when it comes up to say that. I don't know, and it's a tradition that's built up, and it doesn't happen overnight. So I don't know how cultures in all these countries here, including in Europe, still not, like I've said on the Hearts of Iron or Hearts of Iron 4 Paradox Forum, monarchism as an ideology is on the rise, particularly in Europe, I do believe. I'm not saying it's a majority opinion that most people do, and then, I know like countries like Belgium are monarchy, but I think, and the Danes are monarchy, but I think most of the people sort of ignore it as a political factor and believe it's something sort of for tourists and whatever. It isn't real as a political factor. But I think it's on a rise because of a lot of different pressures. Now, I don't think this is a sign that monarchism became heavily discredited with the collapse of the traditional order in the First World War. And so there was a lot of anti-monarchist feelings for various reasons based on that. Also, of course, the rise of socialism, various types. Now, you can have socialists that are pro-monarchist. They're obviously not going to be a revolutionary socialist or a socialist who wants to believe everybody should have equal results, even if you are, because you can do, and I'm not talking National Socialism of Germany, but you can do socialism as opposed to international socialism. You can do socialism based purely on one country that benefits one country, so it's sort of national socialism, but it's sort of like national communism, if you will. Maybe it would be a better term. As an extreme example that you want to have, theoretically at least, equality of outcomes, meaning everybody gets paid the same. If you're a doctor, you get paid the same as a ditch digger. No matter what you do, you get paid the same. You're the president of the company, you get paid the same as any worker in the company. So if you want to believe in that, you're not going to believe, in that extreme, you're not going to believe in a monarchy. But if you generally want socialized medicine, you want significant subsidies for the poor and a lot of other heavy socialist programs, you can still believe in monarchy. And like I was saying, it's not necessarily believe in an absolute monarchy. A lot of people, I believe, with this new rise of monarchy, believe in a representative form of government, much like you see in Britain. The monarch, trust me, has a lot of power. Now, that doesn't mean that they get to, and this will be, I think, in the near future coming in a lot of these countries, it won't be that the king or the queen or whoever isn't running the government on a daily basis, but they are there as a guarantee of, if you will, the Constitution. They will, that they will have that executive ability, in that I think and I don't know all of the different European countries that have a monarchy, but I believe the British officers oath of allegiance when they become an officer is to the monarch of the country. Like when the United States, when the oath of the officers, their job that they swear to obey, or their duty is to protect the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. They don't swear to protect the country. They don't swear to protect the people. And they're not there. The army is not there to protect the people or the nation. It's there to protect the Constitution. And they're there to obey the president, because the president also, what his job is to preserve and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. He doesn't swear to protect the nation. He doesn't swear to protect the people. He doesn't swear to make sure everybody lives well and has a good job. Now, he can do that as part of his duties, but he swears to protect the Constitution, not the nation, the Constitution. That's partially comes out of the tradition in that it is theoretically 50 nations that we have here, states, that are bound together under the Constitution, so that the president is theoretically protecting the Constitution. Then the states will take care of themselves. And so we look to the Constitution. Like I'm saying, in Britain and other nations, if the military and other forces have a monarch that they swear allegiance to, and then allow a prime minister or president, in some cases you can still have a president and a monarch, though that's a little more iffy because theoretically both would be head of state, but theoretically has a monarch that doesn't run the country on a normal daily basis, but is there as a protector of whether it's the national constitution, but shall we say the nation, the people, so that if you start to feel overwhelmed by outside forces that are controlling your country, you can look to your monarch to go, hey, protect us from this. Now, you may have been thinking the outside forces was either a foreign invasion or a mass migration. It could simply be EU commissions that are stomping on local Dutch rights to grow tulips the way the Dutch want to grow tulips, or whatever the hell, or how they want to build their dikes, or if they, is it hurting global warming by creating a new province by filling in this, and the EC said, or the EU says no, you can't. Well, maybe the Dutch monarchy could step in and go, no, the Dutch people are going to do their thing their way. So it's protective from outside or inside forces from a major change, that I think that people, particularly in Europe, are looking more towards the monarchy, not to become, like I was saying, an absolutist monarchy, or to run even within if you look at the 17th century in Britain, the king was still more or less running Britain, and Parliament was just sort of there to approve taxation and very limited stuff, and all of the ministers were all pointed out of the king's party, and it was really the king running the thing. Where you get into the late 18th century, it's really the party who wins, who has the majority in the combination of the House of Lords and Parliament that's normally setting up and forming a government, that the king just sort of has to approve of, not appoint. It's sort of a changing of power relations. So it's not going to be the same, and it's sort of a protective element, and that's what I think is on the rise in places like Romania, who King Michael is still alive from the time period he was a young man at this. Otto Habsburg died some time ago. Well, won't get into that previous life of mine, but I don't know who, if Hungary was to have a monarchy these days, they would get. But now the descendants of King Zog are back living in Albania, but I don't really think the Albanians care that much. So I think it's that sort of thing, that the modern monarchist isn't looking to have a monarchistic dictatorship or anything like that, but it's a way to, if you will, protect against democracy. Because, to get back to my earlier point, and I know some of you don't like politics when you're talking about them, but if you look at whether it's Erdogan in Turkey or Hitler in Germany, using democratic and legal processes to achieve majority governance, majority members of parliament, or however it is within the country, and then because again in the U.S., you want to make a change in the Constitution. Congress doesn't make the change in the Constitution. They can sort of do it, but it has to be ratified by, I think it's 2/3 of the states. That so each state legislature has to vote on it, and it's and there's several different ways. There's several different processes to do it, but it's something that you get 90% of the senators and 90% of the congressmen who agree that left-handed people should be imprisoned. I'm trying to keep this out of any modern political debates, but you get that thing. 90% of the people agree with that, and the president agrees with that. That doesn't change the Constitution in the United States. You have to have it ratified by the states. So you get control in Washington doesn't mean you get to change the Constitution. All the states have to agree, and so you got to go through a long multi-year process, normally speaking, unless they want to rush something through, which they can. But you have to go through that process, where in Germany, because I've been looking at this a lot, once the Nazis got in power, they very much were able to, through the legislature branch, just change the constitutions in Germany that more and more set it up for National Socialist Germany and stopped any change. So the mere fact that you have democracy and a temporary, if you will, national consensus. Consensus doesn't mean everybody agrees on, but a great majority agrees. That they can go, hey, yeah, we all think, getting back to left-handed people, or we should, spend 3/4 of Romania's budget on a space program, or whatever, because we too want a, land somebody on the moon, or whatever it might be, that everybody agree, or, so many people agree upon, that the monarch can go, no, we can't do that. Whatever, that the monarch can step in when the passions, if you will, of the people don't necessarily need to be negative hate passions. They can be, we all want to go to the moon, or whatever it is, can step in and limit the force, because I don't think these countries in Europe, and I'm looking at all of them, have the traditions of strong respect for the courts. I remember enough stories where the mafia is killing off judges in Italy and whatever else, and intimidating them, so that you can really set up a situation where a judiciary may not be able to limit the other branches of government. Is why I think monarchism, as well as a certain amount of, shall we say, cultural reawakening mixed with cultural threats. Cultural reawakening, I think, is happening in various parts of Europe as central authority of the EU is increasing. Again, that's sort of external, so that they're going, yeah, we Dutch aren't the same as Portuguese, or we Portuguese aren't the same as Dutch, the Dutch. So that, we're both Europeans, but now, again, I know in most of these countries, the EU, is more popular with the youth. But I think even there, they might be seeing some of it going too far. Could be wrong on that, but obviously I'm sort of looking at it from an outside thing. But there's that. Cultural reawakening is also in the idea of the, former Eastern Bloc countries, the Warsaw Pact countries, that you no longer have the education process of socialism pushed down. Again, I didn't experience Polish or Hungarian or Czech, the education system under the Eastern Bloc, but I understand the general ideology, which suppresses nationalism. It's, the basis of Soviet, if you will, socialism is in international socialist views, and that nationalism is often seen as a counterproductive. And we can look at nationalists, which are different than nationalism. Growth of nationalism, some people in America are trying to parse out as, nationalism, that's sort of modern fascism kind of thing, and growing in And not really. But and they're sort of trying to parse it out between patriotism and nationalism. Just because some of the nationalists, they're going, as National Socialists, particularly in Germany, caused World War II. Well, nationalism in Portugal did not cause any wars, people. Period. They'd had a nationalistic government that verged almost onto the fascistic, but not quite, in my view. But they did not go out and instigate any wars. Spain, yeah, it caused a civil war, but that's because there was a massive cultural revolution that had a certain low level, well, compared to, say, the Russian Revolution, but a certain level of violence going on in it that was radically changing Spanish culture. Because there were lots of attacks on the clergy by radical elements prior to the start of the Spanish Civil War. And these clergymen weren't people carrying guns. They were, and women. They were just anti-clerical, and there were attacks and stuff. So Spanish nationalism, yes, caused the Spanish Civil War in that they tried a coup that failed, but they did not then go try to take over any other countries. They weren't geared towards that. And Franco wanted to keep them out of the war, even when he thought Hitler was winning the war. He wanted to keep them out of the war. So nationalism, you may have some of the, Hungary wanting to get big again and things like that contributed to elements of World War II, and obviously the sort of supranationalism of Italy wanting to redo the Roman Empire did this. But nationalism itself was not the cause of World War II. So with the daily education and unacceptability of any strong nationalism under the Soviet style and occupation, again, I don't know the details of their education system, but I must presume that was an element of what was being taught in Warsaw Pact schools. With that leaving the fundamental, I know this episode's getting long, sorry. You can end it now because there's no more gameplay happening for this if you're tired of my politics. With that sort of now cultural reawakening of Slovaks and Czechs and Magyars or Hungarians, or however you want to say it, and the breaking up of the artificial Yugoslavia, and that was again bloody and very unfortunate is how bad that got. I'm not going to minimize how unfortunate that was, but with that happening, I don't know all of the continuing potential disputes between Croatia and Bosnia and whatever else, but more or less my understanding now is the borders are relatively settled and it's relatively peaceful, and people aren't trying to do sneaky little attacks across border raids in the former Yugoslavia anymore. I know some down here is Montenegro may still be a little iffy, but it's not going to, I don't think, be an ongoing cause of wars in the Balkans. I may be wrong, of course, because the Balkans have caused lots of wars over the years, but it's settling down. But the national identities within the former Yugoslavia are now coming out. And so with those national identities are no longer being suppressed, are coming out. And then, of course, you also must say, the threat of large scale of immigrants, yes, mostly from Muslim countries, but they're from Africa and the Middle East, mostly because of the chaos in those countries, and that they are radically different culturally. People are feeling a bit of, well, what's my culture? Not that they necessarily, a lot of the people don't want to help out refugees, but are these refugees going to become a permanent element to the country, or are they a temporary element until some of the Middle East settles down? And yes, it may be the children of these refugees, but they may be sent back. I've had, sorry about all this, some Cuban friends, and we've had a very, if you touch an American soil, if you're Cuban, you touch American soil, you get political asylum policy, and I've very much supported that. Now, in the United States, if you were born here, you are a U.S. citizen, and I fully agree with that. One caveat I might say is if you were here legally. You know, but we basically say anybody born here. You're a citizen. There have been, say, a wave to sort of the end of the Obama administration with a lot of Cubans fleeing via Mexico and coming up and doing this, and I would say much of them are more economic refugees as opposed to political refugees. If, say, tomorrow Raul Castro dies and there's a collapse within 6 months of the communist Cuba, I would sort of be for, say, any Cubans that have arrived here in, say, the last 10 years, not somebody who showed up here in 1960 something or even 1980 something, you know, but in the last 10 years or so, as political refugees, now that Castro's gone, send them home, because now there's no longer that reason to be a refugee. This isn't, you know, I think Cubans are great. We have many Cuban Americans particularly in Florida, and like I say, if you're an American citizen, you're an American citizen, whether it's naturalized or you're born here, that's great. But if you're still a Cuban national and you're a recent immigrant and you came here because there was, you know, fleeing Castro's communist regime, if that goes bye-bye, that reason for your being here, I think you should go home. Now you can reapply and go, hey, I want to come back to America, and then we can go through our immigration policy and go, how many people do we want, and do we want you in particular, and go through that whole process. I'm not against immigration. I just want it to be an orderly process, and if your reason was political refugees and that reason is gone, like if you were fleeing the El Salvadorian civil war, if you will, the guerrilla warfare and the terror on the right and the left, and if that's gone away, you should go back home. That's my feeling on it. It's not a permanent status. Now, it may be permanent in the sense that if the conditions don't change, but if the conditions change, you should go home. So I think all of, like, Merkel's refugees that she let in, or Sweden or whoever, that if conditions change enough, they should go home. Even if it's 20 years from now, just tell the people, okay, you're here now. When peace comes to Syria, you're going to be sent back. That kind of thing. And then also you can determine, and I don't know Germany's law, are you a German citizen if born in Germany? I don't know. You know, I don't know if all of the American servicemen who had wives living, you know, American wives, not German wives, but American wives living with them in Germany, still to this day, they're, you know, as part of NATO, are their children German citizens? If they were born, you know, if they were born in Germany and both parents were Americans and they were only there because they were stationed, you know, part of the U.S. base, and if so, well, fine, then if that's the standard German law. But if that is not the law, then that same should hold for refugees. Just because you were born in Germany, if you were here of refugee status. But again, that's my thoughts. It's up to the Germans, and this is my point, is it's up to the Germans, the Dutch, the French, the British, the Norwegians, whoever, to make their own laws and have their own setup. And I may, like I just did, comment on them, but I totally agree that it should be up to them to make what it should be or shouldn't be, not up to me. Again, I have ideas about everything in the world, what tastes good and what tastes bad. That doesn't mean that if you like the taste of something and I don't like almonds, you love almonds, you should eat almonds. You know, don't pay attention to my opinion on disliking almonds. It's just that kind of thing. So with that point, I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that. And please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. And you can tell me why I'm wrong about my political ideas, so long as we keep it peaceful and civil. And that, I'm very happy with that. So thanks so much. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.